Hey everyone, this is Paul Gale from paulgalenetwork.com, and thank you for joining me today for video game news. It is July 22nd, 2021, and these are the top stories of the day. To kick things off, we have something really exciting to check out from EA. It is the Dead Space official teaser trailer coming to us from EA Play Live 2021. Let's check it out, alright? This is my initial reaction to the trailer. Game engine footage represents game in development. You know, Video Game News with PGN talked about this a couple of weeks ago, that it was strongly rumored and pretty likely to end up coming true sooner or later that EA was bringing back Dead Space. And here we have it. Looks cool. I don't know if it's going to be quite a remake or a reboot of the franchise, you know, a modern day telling of the story, but pretty cool. Let's find a decent paused image. Yeah, something like that. I think this is awesome. Welcome back, you know. It's been a while since we've had a new Dead Space entry. The original titles on Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 were really cool. And Dead Space Extraction on Wii was really solid as well. That was a light gun shooter and, you know, worked with a Wii remote pointing at the screen, kind of the House of the Dead style. And yeah, cool series. I think with modern technology, it could be really impressive with what they could do visually, expand the size and scope of the game. We found out that it is exclusively coming to next-gen consoles, including Xbox Series S and X, PlayStation 5, and PC. I think that's good too. You know, it will be a little ways out, but it won't be limited by, you know, last gen tech. Because next gen is technically now current gen, but you know what I mean. It won't be limited by also being on the PlayStation 4 or Xbox One. So this is cool. I am hopeful that it's solid. I have a good feeling about it. And I wanted to share that today. So pretty happy. Obviously, I read the news, so the fact that it's happening wasn't a shock. But the trailer was my first time watching it, and I'm pretty happy with what we saw so far. Nice little tease. Moving on, it's another video. This is called Lost in Random, official gameplay trailer for Nintendo Switch. I saw a glimpse of this trailer, but not enough to really know what's going to happen. But the glimpse that I saw was pretty nice, and I thought this might make for a good contribution to today's video game news segment instead of having it as its own designated reaction video. So, let's check it out together. Most of what we're about to see is going to be new for me.
Once upon a time, there were two devoted sisters named Even and Ord. Cruelly separated by an evil queen and the roll of a dice.
I'm coming!
Together with this little fella, Even was determined to rescue her beloved sister.
Yeah, I saw something auto playing, and it was, I think, this segment right here. And I thought, like, oh, this looks pretty cool.
Fascinating world of random.
And then I was like, okay, let me stop watching. So now we're back to new content for me.
Many peculiar characters await. Some will help her. You mean this one? And some won't.
That's against the rules. Oh, sure. A little girl with a dice.
Those coins can be traded for cards.
It's got a cool style, kind of like a Little Nightmares
New cards
slash
contain new attacks, abilities, and more. All of which
Nightmare
come
Before
in
Christmas.
handy during dice battle.
Ready, Dicey?
Even uses her slingshot to attack deadly foes. This can knock off energy cubes used to feed her strange companion Dicey. And once fully charged, even can roll Dicey and freeze time itself.
Cool
Let's see how she
RPG elements,
uses
some
it.
action adventure going on. Really good graphics.
Oh, impressive.
Cool characters, cool enemy design. Like, I like the look of this. This is pretty sweet.
Nice. Ooh, that was a good one.
Fun narrative.
Even's quest will take her across all 6 realms of random. Even must roll the dice and play the odds.
I guess we have a couple
Just a
spooky
chance
games
at
today to
saving
start
her
off.
sister.
Random rules. Long may she reign.
My child, you're safe now.
Lost in Random, and it comes out this September 10th. Another EA title.
My child.
Let's pause it on the logo, perhaps. Yeah, another one from EA. Welcome. What do you think? I think I'll be checking that one out. I'm definitely going to get Dead Space. You know, being a fan of Dead Space, I'm going to check out the new one. Lost in Random, new IP. They sold me on the trailer though, so I'm going to go for this one as well. And it's good. You know, sometimes I'll wait a little bit longer for a title to come out, see what the overall consensus is. But sometimes, based off of the first trailer, you know, I have a good enough of a gauge that, like, okay, that's going to be solid, that's going to be for me, and I want to play it now. Sometimes, you know, there are quite a few titles that I could tell from the beginning whether it's going to be of a certain quality or be for me, but I might not get it at launch. I might wait a bit because I have enough to play at the moment. But this looks like a fun little game and seemingly well done that I think it'll be worth checking out come September 10th. But yeah, let me know what you think. Dead Space, Lost in Random, you down with either? All right. And finally today, it's on the short side for video game news, but we do have our important video game sales to talk about. This is once again laid out nicely by Chris1964 over on the ResetEra.com forum, so thank you for doing that. This is the Famitsu sales chart for week 29 of 2021, which occupies that July 12th through July 18th timeframe. At number 1, debuted The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD for Nintendo Switch, with a pretty healthy 159,089 copies sold. What I hope to see with this game is strong legs, not these giant drops for second week, third week, fourth week, etc. We know this game isn't going to do Breath of the Wild numbers, but can it do comparable to Link's Awakening or better? Hopefully. If Lifetime, I think Skyward Sword HD all around the world hit 10 million, that would be very, very impressive, and you know, triple that pretty much of what it did on Wii, and solid for Nintendo going forward. Okay, number 2 on Nintendo Switch, Crayon Shin-Chan, which is an adventure game in a cel-shaded like kind of animation style. It looks nice. It's a pretty good looking game. It debuted at 107,319 copies, which is quite solid. At 3 is Monster Hunter Stories 2 with a 77% drop. Went down to 32,111. Number 4, E-Baseball Professional Baseball Spirits 2021 from Konami on Nintendo Switch with 20,711 copies sold, an 81% drop. Pretty significant. Number 5, Ring Fit Adventure with 12,164. Number 6, Minecraft on Nintendo Switch with 11,565. Number 7, Game Builder Garage, hanging in there, 10,634. Number 8, Mario Golf Super Rush with 10,339. Number 9, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe with 9,945. And at number 10, another new title for the week, making it the third total, Earth Defense Force 2 for Nintendo Switch with 9,379 copies sold. So it was another week where we got 2 games that topped 100,000. Last week, the 2 games that topped 100K were Monster Hunter Stories 2 and eBaseball. This time we got Zelda and Crayon Shin-Chan. So pretty cool. It's a 10-0 split for the top 10. Nintendo Switch dominated there. And if we move into the hardware things, we could see the Nintendo Switch OLED model impact taking its toll on the weekly Nintendo Switch units sold. And I said this from the very beginning. You know, a lot of people were wondering, how come with so many rumors out there and reports saying that it's real and this, that a Nintendo Switch Pro is coming out? You know, way back even in March, in April, in May, you know, not just pre-E3, early June, but, you know, for quite a while, it's coming. How come Nintendo doesn't just drop it? If Nintendo wasn't ready to have the system come out until October, and they announced it in March, you would have a significant amount of people less be purchasing Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch Lite models between March and October for 7 months or however many months, because they would be waiting. Then you have these systems sitting on the shelves. Then you have retailers taking up inventory space on shelves and in the back with units that are not sold. Then you're either forced to reduce the price, or Nintendo has to prematurely reduce the price of Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch Lite when they're otherwise selling out, because people are waiting for a little bit too long to buy that Nintendo Switch OLED. 7 months out, 6 months out, 5 months out. On the flip side, if Nintendo waited all the way until, you know, September 15th or something like that, Nintendo Switch OLED model coming out next month, which would be in just 3.5 weeks, a lot of people would feel bummed that, oh, I can't believe it. I just bought one. I just spent $300. Had I known that I could just wait 3 more weeks for a Nintendo Switch OLED model and, yeah, pay $50 more, I would have gladly waited 3 weeks, and I would have had the new system, because I'm looking forward to Metroid Dread anyways. And yeah, I would have just bought the 2 of them together. Oh man, now I have my system, and now I can't, you know, return it back, and you have this disappointment. So there's a very fine line in marketing strategy, time, releasing, not just releasing a device, but the announcement of when the device is coming out. And I think 2 months should be the minimum. 3 months was definitely very healthy. 4 or more, far too long. I even think that 3 months was honestly, not to say too long, but honestly a little bit more on the pro-consumer side, where Nintendo is eating a little bit of the sales now, a little bit longer than they could have. Then again, you know, better to be safe than sorry. Better not, you know, damage a fan base, fracture them. This still gives people the opportunity that, hey, if you want a Nintendo Switch now, buy one for $300. You know, you're not going to pay, you know, that much more for an OLED model. If the OLED model came out for $300, that would be problematic. At least now people could say, well, the pro in buying a Nintendo Switch 3 months before OLED is I get to play it for 3 months more, which there's value in time. There's value in having fun for 90 days longer. And there's also a value in the fact that it's $50 less, and you've already waited 4.5 years to buy a Nintendo Switch now. So at this point, you know, buy it now. Don't worry about that 3 month later one for $50 more, you know. But you can see the impact in Japan, where last year it was 113,000 Nintendo Switch units sold, and this week for the same respective time, 64,107. That's quite a bit less, right? That's 58,000 plus less. So I guess overall, Nintendo knows what they're doing, and they picked the optimum time. You're also thinking about E3 and not cannibalizing E3 or taking away anything from Metroid or Zelda or Mario Party or WarioWare at E3, and letting E3 shine as its own thing. And then stagger the hype, where in July you reveal the Nintendo Switch Plus. So you always have people talking. And I guarantee you, no matter how much negativity is online of, oh, Nintendo Switch OLED model, not the thing that we wanted, oh, this, the thing is going to sell out. The thing is going to be really solid. It's not a must-have update for everyone, but a lot of people will upgrade their console, give their existing Nintendo Switch or Nintendo Switch Lite to someone else, a friend, sell it to a retail shop, have that unit sell for less to someone else, and they'll enjoy the OLED model as their new model. A lot of people will buy the OLED model for the first time because, after all, there are probably right now around 89 million Nintendo Switch units out there. There's definitely room to grow. At the very least, you could say Nintendo Switch has the ability to reach 155 million based off of Nintendo DS. You know, there should be around 155 million people interested in buying a handheld gaming device. You add the fact that it's a handheld gaming device and a console device in one, and really that's where Nintendo Switch comes into some interesting territory because it's still hot, it's still successful. The outlook going into 2022 and beyond seemingly is positive. There's always the potential for a permanent price drop on any of these models. There's the likelihood that in a couple of years a Plus model will come out, and there's almost the inevitability of Nintendo's next console is going to be a designated Nintendo Switch 2, while they simultaneously, still support the Nintendo Switch for a couple of years going into Switch 2 until it starts getting exclusives. And how long is this window? Is it going to be 8 years before we get a full console? You're looking at 2017, and then a new console coming out 2025. A few factors remain, but Nintendo's doing an awesome job on all ends. And long story short, going back to it, you're going to notice some smaller sales of this week compared to last year. And Nintendo Switch is still ahead of last year by 290,000 or so. It's going to be bigger and bigger of a gap, or less and less of a gap, I should say, until OLED model comes out. But I still think that at the end of the year, 2021, both in Japan and worldwide, will pass its 2020 counterpart for Nintendo Switch. All right, that was a lot of Switch talk, deviating a little bit from raw sales of what this chart's about. But anyways, on PlayStation 5's side of things, it dropped down to 10,107. The Xbox Series brand went up to 1,874, which is pretty significant from last week's 1,066. 3DS sold 584, a little bit down. PS4 sold 295, more than half down. Nothing too crazy in software or hardware today, but it's still exciting for me to talk about because you still learn a little more each time, and it helps you become a better analyst and start to understand more why the industry works the way it does. Why does a drop happen? And this comes into, other talk, like when people discuss if Metroid Prime Trilogy, as rumors suggest, is done, why doesn't Nintendo just drop it? Well, because Nintendo could very well use Metroid Prime Trilogy at any point they want. Nintendo Switch having a very successful, seemingly longer than normal lifespan for a video game console for a Nintendo system means that they could release it truly at the optimum time for them. Is that optimum time 5 months before Metroid Prime 4 comes out so that there's enough hype for Prime 4 but that they don't eat into each other's sales? Possibly. Does Metroid Prime Trilogy get saved for when a big Nintendo Switch game comes out here in January, but the next AAA title from them doesn't come out until June, and they're like, that's when we throw in Prime Trilogy in April, so then it's not this 5-month wait in between. It's only a 2-month wait to this one, a 3-month wait to this one, that kind of thing. Nintendo is fortunate. They're in a really good position right now that they can do that. And I don't think it's a disrespect to the consumers. I don't think it's making people wait longer. Heck, some people see it as there's no reason why Majora's Mask HD, Wind Waker HD, Twilight Princess HD, Ocarina of Time HD don't come out now. Nintendo doesn't need to. They're still giving you brand new games to come out and play. Pokemon's still coming this fall. Another Pokemon's coming next year. Skyward Sword just came out. We just got Mario Golf. So it's not like they're not giving you anything. But honestly, they could release Wind Waker HD in 2022. And for the majority of gamers, it's not going to be too long of a wait, because the majority of gamers that are coming into Nintendo Switch have so many games to choose from, probably including a lot of the Wii U titles that they didn't play, and new members coming into the Nintendo Switch community currently buying new games and games from this 3-year, 4-year, 5-year, 6-year-old library, that by the time Wind Waker comes out, it's a brand new title. And for everyone else that is wanting it so badly, if it was truly the only thing you wanted and were looking forward to on the system, yeah, then it could be like, I waited 6 years for this on Nintendo Switch. Too late, not interested. That's possible. But honestly, you probably were enjoying the system and enjoying the majority of the games coming out for it during that entire time, right? So it's probably not a situation of all of your eggs are in Wind Waker HD coming to Nintendo Switch. So if it does come out in 2022, so be it. Maybe Nintendo Switch is so successful that 1 year later, 2023, that's when you get Twilight Princess HD. And then maybe, November 2023, that's when they release Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask as a 25th anniversary celebration of Ocarina of Time, and throwing Majora's Mask in there. So you can see, like, a normal video game system has a shorter life. If the vision for it is this many games in these 5 years, the developers have to work faster and rush a little bit to ensure that everything is out on time, or something kind of gets shifted and saved to next gen. Nintendo has the benefit of, they have a lot of past games that they could bring, they have ports that they could bring, and they're constantly making new games that they want us to experience. They're trying to satisfy multiple markets, the old school crowd that have been there, the old school crowd that want the old school games back, the old school crowd that wants to explore new games. You realize that there are some people out there that say, I don't want to rehash. I don't want a Wii U game because I bought a Wii U. I want the new stuff, I want the Super Mario Odysseys. And then there are some passionate gamers that, I love Wind Waker HD so much that I want to buy it again. Then you've got, people that are completely new to the system that say, hey, I'll take whatever's cool. It's such a complex world, and you'll never truly satisfy everybody, and that's unfortunate. But overall, I think that what Nintendo is doing is quite solid. Best case scenario, and this is the best case scenario for the Nintendo Switch owner, is that the Nintendo Switch enjoys a long life, right? Like 8 to 10 years maybe, where a Nintendo Switch 2 did come out at some point in those 10 years, but Nintendo Switch games were being developed by Nintendo even for like these 8 or 10 years. And by the end of it all, you have this platform that truly ended up having almost everything. By the end of it all, it ended up getting Virtual Console access to classic Nintendo systems. Its Nintendo Switch Online play ended up expanding to Game Boy Advance, N64, and even GameCube, potentially. It ended up having a Mario Kart 9, another 3D Mario, brought back some titles that are beloved like Star Fox and F-Zero and Excite Bike and Wave Race and 1080p and Ice Climbers, Punch-Out, another Fire Emblem, throwing everything on here. While Nintendo Switch 2 came out at some point in the tail end of it, and being the system that, okay, is playing these games at a much higher fidelity, visually, resolution-wise, performance-wise, and so forth, even if a Nintendo Switch Plus also came out in between. You could play it on the base model, the Plus model, or on 2. And then eventually, new games would only come out on 2, and then that would be fair. I love new technology. I love buying every new video game console day one. You know, a couple of years in, I started getting excited like, oh, you know, at the 5-year mark, 3 years away, I would love to buy a brand new system. Give me more. I want them better graphics, more specs, more power, right? I love it. But it's not needed to rush. Honestly, Nintendo Switch still feels magical. It's still an awesome experience getting to take the game off the TV, play that game with modern day tech, modern day visuals, aesthetics, games that I'm also playing on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series, and still really enjoying my time with this. I did it the other day with Crash Bandicoot. I played Crash 4 on PS4, and currently I'm playing Crash 4 on Nintendo Switch, and I'm still having just as good of a time with the game. But now I took it off, went into the backyard, and I'm playing by the pool, and I'm thinking like, man, that feeling just doesn't get old. It doesn't feel like I'm playing a game made for a handheld. No, I'm playing a console game, which usually is of a little bit bigger of a scope than traditional handheld games, on this nice 6.2-inch screen in the backyard. Pretty sweet. I just get that feeling. So I love it. The tech side of me wants a Nintendo Switch Plus now. I want that Nintendo Switch 2 now. But the business side of me, which has to work with Nintendo here in my mind, is you don't need to rush it. On the flip side, you also don't want to necessarily take too long to release Wind Waker or Twilight Princess or Ocarina of Majora, because there will become a time where it's too late, where too much of the audience has moved on, and you don't want that to either happen. So I'm not saying, oh, milk it, because it's not a point of, oh, just abusing the fans or not taking advantage of them. No. This kind of happened with, not the abusing the fans part, but this is kind of what happened with the original Skyward Sword on Wii. Despite coming out on Wii, a system that went on to having almost 102 million units sold out there, and it coming out in 2011, somewhere where Nintendo Wii was at like in the 93 million category. 93 million! How many sold? How many copies sold? 3.5 of Skyward Sword, of a 3D mainland Zelda game that at that point was on Nintendo's highest selling console ever, had the biggest gap between console owners and games sold. Horrible ratio. Shouldn't have happened. Had Skyward Sword come out in 2008, 2 years after Twilight Princess, I guarantee you that game would have sold a lot more than 3 million. But it didn't. It came out 5 years later, too far into the Wii's generation, because at that point, we already saw what Wii U was capable of. PS3 and Xbox 360 had already been ahead visually, but now at the end of their generations, we're just pumping out even higher quality graphics in November 2011. And yeah, I'm looking, that's why I'm happy that Skyward Sword HD is out now, because it gets the second life that it deserved. But that's my point. Just because you have a lot of console owners out there doesn't necessarily guarantee that the ratio is going to be high. And especially as you get later into a generation, yes, you have more owners out there, so the ratio is potential to be higher, or at least the total amount of people buying it higher, but the ratio necessarily isn't guaranteed, nor is even the raw number, because people moving on. And when you have Steam Deck, that's going to take some eyes away. And, you know, when you have Amico in television, or in television Amico, I should say, that's going to take a little bit of the eyes. And as Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 begin to get more exclusives, that's going to be able to take away some vision. So Nintendo has to be careful. They could even, and this wouldn't be the popular thing to do, I don't think, but they could even save Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD. If they feel that they're getting too far into the generation before it's released, release it as a designated game for, the Nintendo Switch 2. I don't think that's going to happen, but that would be a way how you launch a brand new system with something exclusive to it. Kind of stinks because the whole Switch generation that was looking forward to it, 90 million, 100 million, whatever amount of fans that buy it, could have had it, wanted it, didn't get it. Now I have to buy Nintendo Switch 2 to get it. Yeah, there's other games that are only coming out on Nintendo Switch 2, but honestly, those should have come out on the Switch, kind of burned out. I don't think Nintendo's going to make that decision, but there's so much to go into it, you see? So there's really a lot more thought than, oh, that's just a bad decision. I can't believe it. Oh, I can't believe it. Even when it comes to things that are kind of unpopular, like not the biggest bangers coming out to the NSO. Or what are these NES games and SNES games? These aren't the hits that I want all the time. A lot of the hits are already there. Some of these games coming out are smaller, that are filling in gaps, filling in time. That's not to say that nothing else is going to come out, that you're not going to get your favorite game that's not already there. But there's a lot of thought that goes into it. And without working for Nintendo, without working for a video game publisher or developer, I don't know everything behind the scenes. But like I've said in past videos, I've talked to enough friends. I have enough friends in different areas of the video game industry that make those decisions that I get word of it and I'm like, that's a lot. Okay, that ended up being yet again. It seems like when we have a small video game news day, we get more into video game talk territory because I can't help but speak opinions. Some of what I say is fact in reading the news. Some of what I say is fact even when projecting additional information beyond the news, and some of it is just opinions, but can't help but talk more when we have a shorter news day, especially when it's sales talk. It's one of my favorites. But all right, that's going to do it for today. Let me know what you thought of the sales discussion, of my, Nintendo Switch breakdown philosophy and whatnot. And like I said, thanks for watching one more time. Appreciate it. Hope you all have a good one. Take it easy. I'll see you next time for more. Bye.